And I'm gonna go live stream onto YouTube. Should have done Facebook too. Oh, now to go to Facebook. We'll just make sure everything is well. Hi, everybody. This is Shanice Gay with Ali coming to you with a special guest, another special guest. This is my second guest for this month. We got some things that we're going to talk about today. This is our sensei,
Hello, hello.
Miss, yes, Miss Beverly Bradley, right?
Indeed.
Okay,
Sensei
okay.
Beverly Bradley.
There
Yes.
you go. Thank you. So first of all, thank you for allowing me to interview you today. I know we didn't meet personally yet,
Yeah.
but you did see me. This is so funny. This is so funny, guys. She saw me years ago
Yeah.
and on TV, and she's like, "Oh my God, I got to get with this person because
Because
she's doing great work, right?" And
especially with
then
the domestic violence.
right.
That's what I.
And then you and I, somebody gave me your number just recently because I wanted you to come out to our event.
Hmm.
And you and I was talking, and you're like, wait, are you
You sound familiar.
right? She was like, "Are you the lady that had the domestic violence and you was on TV?" And I was like, "Yes, that is me."
Hmm.
So the world is so awesome, so great. The universe always bring people back.
That's right. And what is meant to be, because that was a few years back.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
So I must say that we are phenomenal women, as you see, fighter, survivor, defender, queen, and hero. So we are phenomenal women is a organization that's more of a preventive side. So we go out into the community and we more or less talk about domestic violence, bullying, the red flags, healthy and unhealthy relationships. We talk about bullying and so on and so on. So last week I had someone that came on and she spoke about how to get your gun permit. But this week I have someone on that's going to talk to us about how to protect yourself with I don't want to say karate, martial arts. Martial arts. There we go. So Miss Bev, Sensei Bev, can you
Yes.
tell me about yourself, please?
Okay. Well, again, I am Sensei Beverly Bradley, and I have studied martial arts over 25 years, heck, over 30 years. Over 35 years. I'm gonna stop there. You know, we ain't gonna tell all the truths, but I will say, since I was a child, from the first time, believe it or not, I saw Bruce Lee on on television in a movie. Back then they used to have
Channel
these
5.
Saturday. That's right.
Mhm.
Yes, Five Deadly Venoms, all of the above. But I saw Bruce Lee and Jim Kelly, and I was like, I want to do that. It was just like it was just, I guess, but maybe all kids did in their own way. You know what I mean? But I'm just
Mm,
saying with me, literally, I had an allowance and I would take my money and save it because I would keep like this dollar I would get in my envelopes and went around the corner with my own money and paid the
mm.
karate man who taught Goju $10 for that month class every month with my money
Wow.
because I
Okay.
wanted to learn. And that was at the age of 12.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
So
Good.
then
That's
from
dope.
then, yes. So I was that, that karate kid. That's what
Wax
I
on, wax
was.
off.
Okay. And back then, this is coming in, early 80s and stuff. And so, karate was real crucial. And even with there were a lot of black individuals into karate. You
Mm,
know, back in from the 70s going up, and it was huge. And so sometimes we'd hook up with, other individuals that were into their particular styles. And I think about it now and I realize because, as a 70s kid, you did a lot of things. You were
Mm-hmm.
able to do a lot of things, be out in the street, go to movies, things like that. We were young, ride the bus.
Right.
We
Right.
were young. It's a different day than from now. But we would go to, I would never forget, there was an abandoned building. It's an old opera house still up on Broadway in Bed-Stuy
Mm-hmm.
and would do things in this building that just, which was crazy. Dive rolls off of roofs, jumping over steps, like
What?
just crazy stuff. I'd get some wounds, mom wouldn't know, that was
Mm-hmm.
that,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? But then, I stopped for a while. A close friend of mine introduced me. I wanted to still practice. So when I got in my later teens, I started working out with Master Sabu Lewis, who is a legend in Bed-Stuy
Oh
and one of
wow.
the greatest Taekwondo teachers ever. And not only
Mm-hmm.
that, he also taught us modern arnis, which is also a stick fighting Kali, who
Mm-hmm.
he learned directly from Remy Presses, who was the father of modern arnis. So we were able to get those lessons also. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And
Are they
I
the chucks that you talking about?
no, it's a long stick. It's I might ironically, I was working out recently with them. I might have one, think about it. I just had one around recently and as
Mm-hmm.
a matter of fact, well, I don't want to get up and leave the camera, but at another point I can, and if you want me to, I could show it to you,
Okay.
because I actually have it right here somewhere.
Somewhere.
But well, because I was working out with someone, I had my sticks. But
Okay.
yes, but anyway, yeah, and that's excellent Taekwondo, is amazing art. I received my black belt in Taekwondo, but I
Mm.
also had a professor teacher who asked my teacher because he felt that I was ready for it and I could learn it if he could teach me Sanukus Roo. So
Mm.
after my black belt, my advanced training, I started learning with Sanukus Roo, from the incredible Master Moses Powell, which is more of a combat type training. And that
Mm-hmm.
training is, just to the point. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I always, and I still feel, confident enough in knowing that, I know some things, and I
Mm-hmm.
teach people some things to
Mm-hmm.
defend yourself if needed,
Yeah. Yeah.
necessary. But even though it's not always the martial arts, it could just be
Mm-hmm.
your voice. That is a
Mm.
very incredible weapon. And honestly, avoidance, awareness, your voice are all up there in that number one. Because if something is happening to you and you raise your voice, you never know who can hear,
That's true. That is
and
true.
might come to your aid or call
Right.
for help for you. you know?
Right.
So yeah,
But we got this great thing called Siri. You ask her to call the cops or whatever.
oh,
And yeah, yeah.
I don't know much like that about Siri.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell the truth, but that's
Mm-hmm.
good to know because it's
Mm-hmm.
needed.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah. That is.
Fantastic.
So
That-
somebody I know just recently did it. And
Wow, they said
yeah.
Siri called the cops.
Mm-hmm.
Your cars do that too now too. But really, they said
Oh
Siri
wow.
called the cops.
Mm-hmm.
And, wow. And did Siri
Mm-hmm.
call the cops in time?
Yes, she did.
Wow. I might
Yeah,
have to
yeah.
talk
So
with
that's something
Siri.
new, right?
Yeah.
See, we learned something new.
That's your next interview.
Siri.
Call Siri on. Let her tell you what's going
Oh
on.
my gosh, that's so funny.
Tell me how
Yeah,
to do
I'm telling
it.
you, I'm telling you. So it's funny because when I mention the word, she's lighting up on my phone. That's funny. Let me relax her.
They know
Let her know.
everything. This laptop
Mm-hmm.
was on and my alarm went off. And what went across the Zoom was music is playing. Huh?
Mm.
Why are you
Okay.
listening to what's going on over there?
Oh my goodness.
All
It's
right.
this is something different, right?
Yeah,
So you talked about, first of all, you said you've been doing this past 25 years,
I have.
30 years, maybe
Yeah.
32, a little more,
Yes,
maybe.
yes, yes. We're gonna stop there at 32, being that I already stated what age I was when I started.
Right. Okay.
32 years. Yeah.
It sounds nice. Okay.
Yes.
So, and then you also broke down the different trainings that you did. So, did it help you like become more disciplined, your self defense, your empowerment? Like, how did you feel once you was able to get this training from some super professionals. Like, how did you
Mhm.
feel? Did you just want to karate kick somebody real quick?
There's someone now. Yeah, no, never. No. I have trained people though who did feel empowered like that. Would tell me
Hmm.
stories about they're walking in the house, kicking the kitchen door open. Okay. You know, like,
Acting like Biggie.
you know, I have roommates that will call me Sensei. Listen,
That's so
it's,
funny.
it's the truth. These are true stories. Like,
That's
she's
funny.
walking around, she's kicking open doors. Someone else told me they were walking through the train. They felt like, I said,
That
okay,
is hilarious.
empowerment. I hear that 101.
Hmm.
But as for me, never that because with me, it's just always been about defense. It's
Hmm.
it's like for me about if under attack.
Right. What to do?
And right, God knows what I would do, But I'm just saying
Hmm.
it's about if under attack. It's never about now I feel like I'm the aggressor. Let me go on out and
Hmm. Hmm.
it's not even my mental, my personality, myself. The last thing I ever want to do is get physical with anybody in fighting. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's like the last thing I'm thinking about. However, let's just say one or two times when I did have to defend myself,
Hmm.
the amazing thing about it is you have certain things when you're constantly doing the art. Muscle memory is one.
Hmm.
So if you're constantly, whatever, that muscle
Hmm.
remembers, you just have that muscle. Even when you stop for a while, it'll come back, kind of like how muscle,
Okay.
you know. But and sometimes you will defend and do things that you didn't even know. It just did it because
Mm-hmm.
it knew it was time. Because
Mm-hmm.
one incident, I will talk about one incident when someone, as he was charging toward me, I just gave him a swift side kick so fast, so quickly because he was now within my space,
Right.
boundary
Mm-hmm.
in an aggressive manner. So once
Mm-hmm.
he was in that arena, I
You had
didn't
to
keep the
defend
leg kicked.
yourself. Yeah.
I didn't even, I'm trying to say, I wasn't even in thought about it. It did it. And as he
Mm-hmm.
was down there looking up at me surprised, I was surprised too. I was like, oh, what the?
I did that. Oh my God.
It was just like,
Right.
but then as he looked at me, I was like, yeah. But in my mind, I was thinking, whoa. And I
Mm.
realized when Bruce Lee always said, he says in a famous speech that he gives and everybody talks about the water, but he says, when it's time to strike, he says, I do not strike. It strikes all by itself. He's
Wow.
right. It's real.
Okay.
Once you were conditioned in it, you're going to defend yourself.
Right.
You just
Okay.
defend yourself. You know what I mean? So again, I never I don't even think about it as fighting. Sometimes people will find out blah blah. They say, "Oh, you can fight." Yeah, I don't fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
not even in my and I'm never trying to get into a fight.
Right.
I
Right.
defend. I hopefully God willing will never have to. And if I do, I'm just going to defend myself.
That's
And
it.
myself, it means stopping the attacker.
Right.
The attack
Right. That
and
makes
being out
sense.
of there. I'm not trying to stay and play. I'm not trying
Right.
to stay in torture. I'm
Right.
trying to get out of Dodge quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever I can do to stop the incident and be on my way, that's how I
That's
think.
what.
And that's how I teach.
Gotcha.
That's how I teach. I'm not teaching anyone to go out there and be like, yeah, test me. Nah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Nah.
But it's
And if
funny
I
because.
hear that,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that and behavior like that does occur. And it
Mm-hmm.
prevents, real teachers, it will prevent them from promoting students because they see that you're not in the right mind frame.
Mm-hmm.
You're in some place that you just want to fight or be able to fight or bully or you know that
Mm-hmm.
you're the best or test to see if you're the best. Great martial, we don't do that. That's
Right.
that. And a great teaching of a martial arts is not about that. Again,
That's good to know.
yeah, no. Only
That's
time
good
a
to
person,
know.
I guess, is trying to teach you to win is if you're sparring in competitions. Like
Right.
that's a different thing. But on the regular in the street mountain, no. And most
Mm-hmm.
martial artists, the greatest, you know, maybe carry a sense of something about them that might seem a bit, that because you rarely get in anything.
Mm-hmm.
No, but if you do, you know how to defend yourself.
That's it. That's the number one thing. Because the young lady that I was interviewing last week, she explained like majority of the time when somebody is carrying, they don't show. They don't show it. Like so. Then she also let me know that when you do that, that's illegal. You're
Yeah.
not supposed to be up there like, ah,
Even mace
got
is
it.
illegal.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So she was just like, people are humble when they carry, and,
Because they
and
feel
that's what it
secure.
sounds right. And that
You're
sounds like
supposed to.
something with you. You're saying that people are more humble versus just going around picking a fight. Now, if they picking a fight, that's because there's something else with themselves.
That's right. And
Hmm.
you're taking the arts for a whole different reason.
Right.
Who knows? I mean, a lot of people take the arts for different reasons. I'm sure. I don't know why everyone does, but rarely have I ran across anyone that has or did because they want to be like, now I'm gonna go get Billy for that fourth grade punch that he
Hmm.
did in my eye. Like
Hmm.
that's
Hmm.
nah,
And this is a disclaimer. We're not promoting no violence
never.
to
No.
anyone.
It's
We
an art.
just right. And that's the thing.
It's an
People
art. That's why it's called
people
martial arts.
martial arts,
It's an art.
exactly. How many different types of martial arts that people like? Is it different levels? Is it how does that go?
But they're different types. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there's Chinese, African, Korean, Japanese.
Mm.
There's so many types of martial artists that, teach different methods, different ways, even different type of kicks. It could be a side kick like in Korean side kick in Taekwondo. Taekwondo is Korean style. It's
Mm.
with the foot like this. And
Okay.
the foot, it's the heel up through kicking this way. But
Mm-hmm.
Goju is Japanese. The foot is like this, and it's about the side of the foot kicking like
Gotcha.
blade like this. So they teach differently, but in the end, they all help you defend yourself and teach
That's
you
true.
points and arenas of where to strike,
That
and
makes sense.
yeah,
Wow.
so they're all about they're just a different type because they're different places all over the world with people that
Mm-hmm. You
are
learn
defending
martial
themselves,
arts. Right,
just like a lot
exactly.
like with the Chinese, even with the weapons, a lot of them were garden tools.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like stuff they took from, gardens and started to use as weapons. The sticks were used in dance and as and hidden as dance moves, but when it was time for war, used to in combat.
Mm-hmm.
So, it
Wow.
depends. Yeah.
You learn something new all the time. Oh my goodness, I love it. Um, I know you mentioned something that happened, uh, what, 2004, that it was some tragic situation that came up. And is that the reason why you started doing what you're doing? Was that the call of action? Can you explain and tell us about that?
Okay. Well, firstly, in 2000. I started an organization which I called Kamiliafia, which means complete health. And it was Swahili Kamili Afia, which Kamili, mind you, is Kilinda's name, her other name. When she's not being Kilinda, but and I started this based on I myself went through a major weight loss. And people at the time, I was a physical therapy assistant, and I was working in a place, and people were asking me constantly, like, how did I get my abs like that, and how did I get my body like this, da da da. So I started thinking, I should do some type of something for the women in the community. So we started with walks through Prospect Park and Fort Greene Park and just walks and things like that. And I sat down and decided I have an organization. Fine.
Mm-hmm.
I can do a business from this maybe. You know what? Let me
Mm-hmm.
start getting more people, more women, and get us healthier. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And gathered. And greatly enough, we had this Camellia Althea going. It was awesome. And I created a studio where I lived, and I also would teach classes occasionally at my dojo,
Mm-hmm.
just different things, like a little bit of like kickboxing exercise, stuff like that. And that was great. But in 2004, and back then, there were not a lot of surveillance cameras around. So,
Mm-hmm.
so surveillance was new.
Right.
And if anything was on surveillance, it was being shown repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. So in
Mm-hmm.
Florida, there was a young lady, a young girl named Carly Bruscia, and they kept showing on the news the surveillance of this young girl being led away like this by her wrist from
Mm-hmm.
a male. And he had on a jumpsuit and like a name tag, and they kept showing it like, if you see this name tag, if you see this person, if you see whatever, just look out. We're trying to find this young girl. And so I'm watching too because another thing is surveillance. And also I'm
Mm-hmm.
looking at, oh my God, this girl, like that's something so simple. Getting out of
Mm-hmm.
someone holding your wrist is one of the easiest things to get up. Nobody, no matter how strong, no matter how big, can hold you like that because once you turn this bone, which is the radial
Mm-hmm.
bone,
Mm-hmm.
to the section of where the thumb and the finger meet and just move
Mm-hmm.
it out,
Mm-hmm.
they can't hold you, you know?
Okay.
So I'm watching it and I'm thinking, gosh, she could have got out of it so easily. Unfortunately, a few days later, they found this young lady,
Mm.
raped, she was murdered.
Oh,
You know,
jeez.
they also
Well.
caught him and they talked about she was in the car and in the back seat of the car, how the roof of the car had her footprints all over the roof of the car.
Oh my gosh.
And so all I could picture was she was on her back and she was fighting for her life. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought to myself, she started fighting too late.
Mm.
If she knew something, if she even knew just to, as I said to you earlier, raise her voice.
Yeah.
Because there was a camera around, there was a business across the street. That's who
Mm-hmm.
caught the surveillance. If she would have
Mm-hmm.
started yelling, they might have come outside.
Mm-hmm.
If she would have known then, don't walk, she was headed to a friend's house or something like that. Don't walk
Mm-hmm.
by yourself through desolate areas.
Right. Yeah.
Awareness, and awareness. And if she
Mm-hmm.
would have known to get out of that, how to get out, she might have been able to outrun him or at least
True.
deter him by running. You know,
Right.
tire your, attacker out. You understand?
Right. Mm-hmm. Or she
So
could have ran into wherever that was
that
recorded.
place, if
Mm-hmm.
she, yeah, knew or saw or noticed it, because
Mm-hmm.
she seemed confused as she's walking away. But the point is, she left with him, and that was the result. So it horrified me.
Mm-hmm.
I started thinking, you know what? There's something I got to do. I
Mm-hmm.
have to do something about this. And so I started volunteering at different schools and different programs that involve children so that no other girl or boy, either or whatever, have to be, subject to this type of attack and not at least have some form of awareness, or avoidance or know-how to help them in the situation so that they can survive. You know what I mean? So that's what started. And I mean school. I volunteer. So I don't even know. I would just stop in places and say, hey, would you like a self-defense class for your kids? Hey, would you like a self-defense class for your kids? Hey, whatever. And yeah, they did. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
After school program, one that I literally ended up getting a job with because she was so impressed. We took the kids out to Central Park one day and it was Cynthia Kirkpatrick, and she had the most amazing, amazing organization, Sister Power. And yeah,
That's
she
dope.
literally created a dojo, a mini dojo and mirrors and, a room space for
Mm-hmm.
activities in her place, from that. And
So what is a dojo? I keep hearing you say it.
dojo, it's a space to train in your martial arts.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
You
Just a
know,
safe space.
Yes, it is.
Gotcha.
Filled with respect. You bow before you go in, you bow when you leave out. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just a safe place of training. Exactly. And yeah, that was one major thing that came out of it. I went to Africa. I
Mm.
volunteered and taught self-defense in Africa. It was years later, maybe about 10 years later, but for me, when I would see a certain type of mission, back then, they were doing the Bring Back Our Girls campaign, and a lot
Mm-hmm.
of young people, ladies, were being taken from school. So there was a certain program that I was doing after school at Imani House, and I was discussing it with the person in charge, Sister BC, and she mentioned how, they have places in Africa,
Mm.
they have a literacy center,
Mm-hmm.
have schools, junior high schools, they had these different type of things or whatever. And she said, basically, you want, you can teach out there. And I thought to myself, yes. She said, but also, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Why
Because
not?
also,
Mm-hmm.
and then not only that, she mentioned some of the schools some girls were taken from. So when
Mm.
once I heard that, that's when it became, what?
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
the S
Mm-hmm.
on the chest. What?
Mm-hmm.
Sensei. You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Here
so
I come.
Super Sensei. So I must go.
Right.
I
Right.
think
Right.
about it now because of just, a lot involved with it, but I can't believe I went out there by myself. There were a lot of different things that occurred coming back, not there, but just
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Because once I was there, to be honest with you, it was the closest I felt to heaven. It was
Mm.
just, I literally I was in a place of not of like grandness, and I was in an area of poverty, you know what I mean? And
Mm,
I was in an area of no electricity because they were still going through things from the wars. You know,
gotcha.
running with this and that. Let's just say a lot of things were what they were, you know what I mean? But
Hmm.
it was beautiful. It was
Hmm.
see this red dirt and to see everywhere you went posters, all the people on them were black. And the president
Hmm.
was black and a woman, you know,
Hmm.
totally, and just so many things. So I didn't even know that besides my teaching, and then the children, oh my God, the teaching and talking to them about, their daily things, whether it's just even them walking on the roads. The
Hmm.
self-defense, some of it was a little different in those aspects, but
Hmm.
the lesson was the same.
Hmm.
You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Okay.
So
Hmm.
so it was amazing to see their smiles and to see excitement. And they've never seen karate mitts before and their
Hmm.
excitement with hitting and punching. So yeah. And the strength, honey. There were those women, it's the
I
truth.
can imagine. I
It's the
can
truth.
imagine.
I was like,
Yeah.
well, let me sit down and learn. You know what I mean? Those women were doing that self-defense, like, oh, I was like,
Mm,
hey, this is where we come from. This is the strength.
right. Oh
Like, you're
my
in the
gosh.
motherland.
Right.
You know?
Hello.
I was just
Absolutely.
like,
That's
recognize,
beautiful.
yeah. So yeah,
That is beautiful.
amazing. And it was a beautiful experience.
I want to go to Africa one day. Me and my husband said we're going to try to get over there.
Beautiful.
Hmm.
You must. And then with Liberia was so amazing, even just being in the water because so many of the slaves, went back there to start their own, colonies and industries in Liberia. So there was the slaves from America that went back. So there I was in this water where so many were taken and so many came back,
Hmm.
and you could feel it.
Hmm.
Every sense in being, knew you were amongst something special and great.
Oh my goodness. That's beautiful.
and and
Wow.
and, and personal, something that was,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? So you
Being
go.
connected with your ancestors.
Indeed.
Hmm.
Those that were being trying to be kept from you, and
Hmm.
a history that you were taught to believe was something,
Stuff.
yeah,
Right.
something so not what it was, because
Right.
it is amazing. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So that means the teachers, the parents, the students, everybody just love the sensei that came from New York over here to teach
Yeah.
us.
They were really
That's
I was at a center. I was
mm-hmm,
at a center where with young mothers and their young babies, and I taught these young mothers there. That was amazing too. And but it was crazy because it was a critical time when I was there. And I'm not going to go specifically off topic, but I'm just saying the irony of I got there. And when I got there, Sierra Leone was now getting very much affected with Ebola. And where I was around, I don't know, like as I was told at the time, 30, 40, 50, maybe 100 so people who had it. When I left, it within 2 weeks, thousands.
oh my
Within
gosh.
2 weeks of me leaving, thousands of people died. Straight within
Um,
some people that I knew as well, that I met. Two people that I met
mm,
that was at the center that I went to,
mm-hmm,
was at the front desk. I've heard about that and just hurt, just like,
yeah.
whoa,
I
and
was just
also
there.
blessed, like, wow,
Hmm.
I got there just it was
Mm,
meant to be.
yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I was about to say, let's have a moment of silence for that, because
Yeah, yeah.
mm-mm-mm.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
incredible. Mm.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I was too. I was.
But
Yeah.
so why do you believe self-defense training is so crucial? Especially, let me just say, especially right now, in this day and age.
Mm, mm-hmm. Mm. Well,
Mm,
self-defense. And I will at this moment specifically say for women and children for a reason. Now, self-defense for everyone, man, woman, children,
mhm,
is a necessity and is necessary. You know,
mhm,
right now, and I have taught men and women and children, but with my children, it's women and boys. You know what I mean?
okay,
It's never like just girl children. But a lot of men, men feel differently. You know what I mean? That might not want to be
mhm,
trained by a woman. You know what
right,
But I'm just going to say, and some men have. I've had men, but I had to watch. I've had, you got to watch what you do because, sometimes I had someone, strange person, trying to get me to go out to Pennsylvania, would give me any money in the world for me to come out and train them. Yeah, no. See, that's my self-defense training. Something with this doesn't sound right. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's not gonna happen.
Intuition. Mm-hmm.
Right. Intuition, another major self-defense. There you go. You said
Mm-hmm.
it right there. Your gut is feeling something, your gut is telling you something. 99% of the time, it's accurate. You walking down the street, you see a bunch of people on one side of the street, and you're like, first of all, why even walk through that? Cross the street.
Right.
Certain things, common sense. You walk with a whole bunch of bags in your hands. You got two bags filled. You walk down the street, it's nighttime. You're like a victim because you look
Mm-hmm.
very much like, you're not aware. These are trainings to women and children. Back again to the women and children. Even just a quick brief, even hoodies. Hoodies, you don't have any peripheral. You got to be careful with stuff like that. You know what I mean? In the wintertime, the ears, those music things, not. So women and children tend to be victimized more than men. Okay. And female women and children, especially sexually, are victimized more so than their male counterparts. Where it's a more of a 81% women, to 24.8 or 5%, different statics, they say different places of men, in the in between, certain whatever. So women and children are considered more vulnerable. And that creates someone, especially like with human traffickers, which is something I'm going to talk about a little bit later. One of the things that I read and saw and also printed is that a lot of times they say black women, they like to attack or to take black women for trafficking and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
because if they get caught, they get less time than if it was a white individual. And that is a written stat. So that is why they prefer. So I like to teach marginalized communities. First of all, I am in a
Mm-hmm.
marginalized community.
Black. Mm-hmm.
I am woman, I am black. You know what I mean? And also, I think one of the things back to the old school self-defense, one of my professors, teachers is the Sanukas ruins, as a matter of fact. But they love the idea of a woman that just seems like she knows nothing, and then oops, you attack the wrong one. You know what
You
I
got
mean?
the right one.
Oops,
Right?
because
Mm.
she knows it all. But I'm just saying that. So yeah, I tend to like to empower women and children more because they are more, victimized,
Mm.
you know.
Back to that sex trafficking thing, that was just like mind blowing for, wow. And I think is that like that because of slavery days where they used to
I assume
take
that in this
mm,
country, some people are considered more worthy.
mm,
We're shown that every day.
mhm, mhm,
Some are
yeah,
not, back from slavery days, back from last week. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like,
That's what we had today.
yeah, just definitely some people are considered worthy lives, and
Mm,
most marginalized communities are not. And yes, slavery days definitely play a major role because there is still a certain opinion upon people of my race, your race, our race, based on those days. They're trying to get rid
mhm,
of this now, which is bizarre and even crazier because now you want to erase the whole genocide of us. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah,
it's ridiculous. You know what I mean? But the point is, when you're in a country where just years ago, so many things were legal,
mhm,
and there are still people that are alive today that was there when maybe your mother or grandmother could not drink out of a certain fountain
right,
and was
yeah,
considered a certain type of individual.
right,
And definitely didn't want the young men mating with the young women for all sorts of reasons.
hmm,
People still walk with that type of feel. And also because of this, there is an advancement for races that aren't there for our race. And
mhm.
then now in trying to give us advancements because of the obviously being treated so way, it's now trying to be taken away is
It's
trying to take
ridiculous.
back that place again.
Yeah.
You know what
The-
I mean?
But this is why and I'm happy you spoke on this. This is why I'm having these Zooms on how to protect yourself, right? Because we don't know the unknown. They know, they might know, but we don't know.
We
So with
don't.
that being said, I need people to understand that it was in my heart to actually do this, to have somebody to come on and talk about a permit, to have somebody to come on and talking about protecting themselves, you know, because we need this. And we need to stop
Absolutely
saying
needed.
we don't know. It's on a
Especially when we,
Zoom.
yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
especially when you feel like, who do you go to protect you? When you are so unfortunately in a country where all you've seen is people trying to kill you,
Hmm. Hmm.
whether it's in a
Hmm.
hospital,
Hmm.
in a
Hmm.
jail cell, walking down the
Hmm.
street, in a
Hmm.
department store, in a
Hmm.
church.
Hmm. Hmm.
Come on now.
Yeah, Facebook.
You're in a
Uh,
place that people just want you to be gone. Whether it's,
hmm.
you trying to just be pregnant and have that baby,
Hmm.
a prevention of you trying to build black families.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's deep. That's super deep.
Ooh,
I need people to I hope whoever that's listening get in touch with you. And I know at the end you're gonna give your information. So that way people can reach out and say, you know what, I need her to come and do some martial arts with me and my family. Or we could do a group a session. That way, we could give you some money for doing what you're doing because you don't have to do it.
I
But at the end of the
always
day, it's
appreciate it, but
about
never the major thought. No. To
okay,
help, to educate. Knowledge is
educate.
power.
That's right.
Knowledge is power.
That's right.
Yes, it
Absolutely.
is.
Yes, it is. This is why I go out and speak on domestic violence and the red flags and
Which is
the
amazing. And I have to
unhealthy and
give you
healthy.
the best of kudos for that because that's something that I always would like. That's why from years ago, always want to work with anyone in domestic violence. Yes, go on.
Okay. Okay. Well, listen, now we here.
Yes, we are.
We are here. We are here. We have each other numbers,
Kismet.
everything. So it was just that the timing, maybe. I don't know. But I see you're busy. I'm busy. Because the
I
first
am
couple of
busy.
days we was like, oh my goodness, we can't get in touch with each other. So now we have each other's information. So I just and I'm at
And
this
that's
point,
thankfulness for Beverly Bolden for that. A shout out
absolutely.
to her. Thank
A
you.
shout out to her.
If
Pop,
she
pop,
sees
pop.
it. Yes. Ooh. BB. Yeah.
For real, definitely. And I'm to the point that my mission had to line up with other people's missions.
Yes.
So I do
Yes.
know you take your mission, you took it all the way to Africa,
Yes,
which
I
is super inspiring.
thank
I never even heard anybody talk about that. Just to say, I went to Virginia and I spoke to the young adults about domestic violence. I felt like I was like, oh, child, you did something. You got out of the city and went
and they
somewhere
did.
else.
That is doing something.
That is, but you
Yeah,
went to Africa.
I did. Because the
Oh
heart
my goodness.
calls. And it's nothing when I get that strength on, I come from a line of strong, strong, beautiful black women. No,
Mm-hmm.
seriously. And they're so strong. They're so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And when I get that feeling of the ancestors in my soul that say, you'll be all right, do what you got to do, baby, it's done.
It's done.
I know they got
Gotcha.
my back.
That's
They
it.
got my back.
There you go.
Absolutely.
Wow. And we must hear you. First of all, I heard you say you went by yourself.
I
What?
did. Yeah, I think about it now and I'm like,
Oh, I would have been
whoa.
scared. I would have been like, what am I doing?
I wasn't scared because it was just to me something I had to go do.
It was a mission.
It was a mission that to me was whatever. Whatever happens,
Mm-hmm.
happens. I gotta go.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think about it now. But as someone pointed out to me the other day too, I was talking about it. They said, "But you were younger." I was like, "True."
True.
I was,
Okay. Okay.
I was a little younger and a little bit more. But yeah, no, but it was, and I would do it again, especially
Mm-hmm.
after, the so many amazing, beautiful things that happened there. I will say crazy stuff happened on the way back though. I'm not gonna get into all that, but I'm just going to say, I had
You
moments
made it. How
of
about that?
that
Mm-hmm.
had
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do with me being in Liberia. It was more stuff in the airport,
In the
like
port,
they
yeah.
took my passport and stuff like that. Like I went through some things, but
Mm-hmm.
and
You
when I
here.
stopped in other countries, which I will not name the countries, but I'm
Okay.
just saying,
Okay.
I'm just saying that, no. And yeah, I mean, I think about it, because even over there, like I said, there was no electricity. So at night, if you were out at night, you were in a street with crowds of people and no light.
Mm.
Just people and lots of them and no lights on dark roads that
Oh
I
my
don't know.
gosh.
Like,
You was out there too?
huh?
You was out there as well?
I was. That's how I know. But I was
Mm-mm.
with someone at the time.
Okay.
You know
Okay.
what I mean? And he knew, and so I trusted him.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still just saying, it was a whole new whoa.
Mm-hmm.
This is the truth right here. You
Wow.
out here, girl. You out
I
here.
know that's
Oh,
right. Wow.
yeah.
Okay. It's funny because I was just talking to my cousin earlier, and she's like, we'll take scraps and turn it to like food, right? They give us the hardest, the nastiest, whatever, and we just turn it into something. Like we always learn how to survive.
My favorite
So
food was potato leaf, but go on.
potato leaf.
Leaf. It's greens and is the taste with that red palm oil. And I can't get it anywhere here. It really bothers me. But go on.
And you got to go back out there,
Just to
probably.
get it.
Yeah. So it's like to hear that it was no lights out there. Everybody was still outside.
Mm.
Everybody was still enjoying their lives. Everybody was still, but out here, when the lights, I think a couple of years ago, we had a blackout.
Mm-hmm.
When I tell you the stores get robbed, or like, why
Fine.
do we
Different
have to?
mentality.
Ah,
And we are a peaceful people by nature. Let's keep it real. Let's know the facts. Someone came into our country with violence and violated us.
mhm,
And we welcomed them in and gave
mhm,
them love.
mhm,
And look what
mhm,
happened.
mhm.
Naturally, that our nature is not like that. The
Yeah.
nature they might try to show the nature being like that, especially they said in the 60s, once upon a time, after like the riots and everything in the 50s, like our civil rights, whatever, the news was on our side, but they said that after what something happened and people attacked the reporters, and from that point onward, that's when they started showing us only in our negative lights
Mm,
only, so it gets around that we're this, we're that, we're taking this, we're taking that. But let me tell you something. Look at how far we've come.
mhm,
People that were not allowed to read.
mhm,
People
mhm,
got the nerve to try to make fun of or do whatever or say certain things from whatever English was back when, or even we learned your language
mhm.
when you didn't want us to. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's like, look at how far we've come. We were able to escape, get people
Mhm,
forth. Harriet Tubman went back and forth. She didn't do it
mhm,
once, twice. She continuously did it because
mhm,
she knew she could. And she had that strength and that power. And again, that elephant, I always say to me, it's when I get my elephant in my chest, that
mhm,
lion in my
mhm,
chest,
mhm.
It's like we are so advanced to have been tried to be kept so far down,
Ain't
which
that
goes to show
something?
that we are the kings and queens that we were taught we were.
Okay. All
That
right. That is a fact. And like you said, you watched Kung Fu martial arts with Bruce Lee years ago while you was a child. And you said, I want to do that.
hmm
You took your dollar allowance money and you went out there and you made it happen.
Yes.
So
I didn't think it would
anything,
be this, but
but
you know,
look what you, it was a calling at that
I
time.
didn't know. And I never thought that I would, make it. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was a calling. It was
Yeah.
a calling,
I
your
didn't know.
calling.
I didn't
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. We don't know.
Even when I was teaching, back to Carly Brusha, so just a quick go back. So when I was doing Camellia Fia, after Carly Brusha was running, after I started volunteering, I changed my entire. I was a black belt then, but I
Mm,
wasn't teaching self-defense.
mm-hmm,
I was teaching fitness and health. I was
mm,
into getting us, into healthier and eating right and losing weight
mm-hmm,
and being more whatever. I taught some boxing, and
mm-hmm,
kickboxing stuff, but like literally started taking it to self-defense classes, like how to
mm,
get this person's, off of you, or this person grabs you like this, da da da. That only started after Carly Brusha and after I started volunteering. And I
mm.
changed the name to Underground Physique, because I started making it, we're gonna get our physique through our underground martial arts.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
makes sense. That makes sense.
And that's what happened, and that's how it turned into that because I decided I have to now teach self-defense to the
Mm-hmm,
teach what I've been taught,
mm-hmm.
pass on the knowledge, you know. Yeah.
Wow. So that's funny because that was basically the next question. But I
Oh,
do want to play your video of you because I have it up on YouTube, the one that you sent me. And I
oh,
was like,
okay.
okay, let's play that a little bit before we get into the next part. Um, let's see. I want to be able to do this right and not be,
Oh yeah.
but in
Teach
the
me something.
meantime,
I didn't even know you could do it. Yeah.
yeah,
Huh?
yeah, we can. In the meantime, I would like for you to tell us like how do you tailor your self-defense teaching when working with others who have trauma, have gone through trauma, who gone through, domestic violence and they want to protect themselves. How do you go by doing that? How do you tailor that?
Well, firstly, I like to let children and adults, know people, women, victims, that you are strong and you can defend yourself. I
Mm-hmm.
like to teach them empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
So part of that also is letting them know, and I went through the years of training, but you do not have to be a black belt and go through years of training to defend yourself. You just have to have certain knowledge
Mm-hmm.
and practice. So one of the things I try to teach them is about vitals. Vitals are certain parts of the body that no matter how big a person is, no matter
You can
how
take them
strong
down.
a person is, you can give them pain and hurt them and
Mm-hmm.
stop them. And
Mm-hmm.
self-defense is breaking down a person with pain,
Mm-hmm.
because once you give them that little piece of pain, whatever they were doing, they're going to stop for a second.
That's a fact. Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when
Mm-hmm.
they stop in that second, you give them another piece of pain and make
Mm-hmm.
that second turn to minutes, turn to nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the vitals, again, they cannot strengthen your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You can always go for the eyes. If you get even just like a little something in your eye,
Mm-hmm.
like a piece of dust, we've all been there. Then you stop for a second to get it out.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Mm-hmm.
stop for, whatever. So that involves if you have change in your hand, throw it at their eyes. If you're by a ground, you can scoop up some dirt, throw it in their eyes. Your fingers in their eyes,
Mm-hmm.
your thumb. Hey, pretend
Mm-hmm.
it's a grape. Do what you gotta do. Squish it. But I'm just saying, But I'm just saying.
Oh my gosh. She says,
I'm just
shit.
saying.
Listen, at the time, it
But
will
I'm
work.
just saying, it's a vital. Remember in your mind, get the eye. You can't get the eye, the nose. Nose bleeds. You learn certain
Mm-hmm.
strikes, like palm heel strike. You hit that nose back. It's not only going to make their eyes water, so now their vision is messed up, and it's also going to make them bleed. The ears, you clap them really hard, really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
They bleed too.
Mm-hmm.
Also, you will probably may burst their eardrum. But once you do that, you've knocked off their equilibrium.
Mm-hmm.
The throat, it's a
Mm-hmm.
kill point. But as I say in this video, actually, if I think you're talking about the one I'm talking about, this is your life here. You trying
Mm-hmm.
to get away. You can hit that, hit it, chop it, why it, whatever, different strikes. The privates, of course, that's the
Mm-hmm.
universal, everybody knows, and that works on
Mm-hmm.
a man or a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Kick them there, knee them there. The privates, the knee, kick the knee backward, kick the knee
Ooh.
hard. The knee moves in one direction. If you kick that knee back, you've messed up the whole everything around that knee.
Yeah, they dropping down quick.
Top of the foot. And what I tell an individual and even a child is, you are stronger than an eye. You are stronger than an ear. You are stronger than a nose, stronger than a throat, stronger than a knee, stronger than a leg. Kick that knee
Right.
so that
Mm-hmm.
they are not running after you.
Right. Yeah.
You are more powerful than an eyeball. Hurt that eye.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You're gonna hurt that attacker. And then they won't
Mm-hmm.
see you. That's another good
Mm-hmm.
thing. Hooty hoo. It's like,
Right. Exactly. Now
go,
you can
go,
run.
go. So I try to, that's part of my empowerment teaching. You know what I mean? To just know that you are able.
That's right.
You are
That's right.
able. And your
Yeah.
voice, again, use your voice. Use that voice as you hitting them. You hit somebody going, yo, yo, you messing them up because they're like, wait, she know karate? What is
What?
going on? Wait, who did I take it? It's like, what is
Mm-hmm.
going on? You yelling in the midst of all what's going down as they trying to understand and I just wanted your watch.
Right.
Like, you don't
Not
know what's
today.
going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just, empowerment.
Okay.
Letting a person, an individual know that you are able.
That's right.
Don't be
Uh,
scared.
That makes a lot of sense because a lot of people they get scared and um let me see where am I at? They get scared and it's like they feel unpowered, like you said. So why am I seeing all this other stuff? Lord have mercy. I had it keyed up earlier, ready, but now
Let me think. I don't know.
let's
Maybe if
see.
you put my name or
Here we
Sensei
go.
Bradley,
I'm showing you everything that I just did just a minute ago.
I don't know, underground physique.
Um, I had it keyed up. I think it's right here. Here we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, look, there it is.
All right.
Ah, let's take a photo.
So I don't know if you're able to hear. Let me make sure I do all this right. The sound got to be shared. Okay. Here we go.
They're preparing for the fight of their lives.
5 seconds, you can be out.
For many women, a physical attack is a real threat. One Beverly Bradley doesn't take lightly.
Chop the neck. This stops the flow of blood to their carotid arteries.
The black belt has been teaching fitness for 25 years, but in 2004, her focus changed.
Carly Brusha.
Headlines and images of the murdered Florida girl struck a
Mm,
chord.
What got to me the most about it, besides the obvious, was the footprints were all over the roof of the car. And I said, oh my God, this girl was fighting. It just broke my heart, and I felt like, if she knew some of the most simplest things.
Things she's vowed to teach children and women.
And I volunteered at every school I could find so that hopefully no other girl or boy would ever be in that situation again.
Her rules are simple.
Number 1, avoidance. Number 2, awareness. Number 3, make noise.
Your best defense?
Well, these are weapons. Your finger is a weapon. Your finger gets in the eye, man. It's a done deal.
Regardless of the attacker's strength, she says the ears, nose, and neck are a universal weakness.
At this point, we'll kill somebody. But hey, you got to take it personally if somebody's hands are around your neck.
She also teaches how to think like a criminal.
I spoke to someone once who attacked and was in prison for attacking a woman. And he said one of the things that he looks for is long hair, especially long ponytails, because he can easily wrap his hand around it and pull someone to the ground.
Half of all attacks happen during the day. Walking alone, on the phone, or with headphones or full hands make you an easy target.
And that's when most attacks happen. They're comfortable.
For Kathy, it was the last place she expected.
A cab ride turned into not so much of a cab ride, where they robbed us and they tied us up.
Now she's well prepared for battle. Bradley says even if you forget everything else.
And never forget to make noise. I don't care if you seem nuts.
I'm Vanessa Welch reporting.
Yes. Oh, I can't hear you now. I think you're on mute. Yeah, you're on mute, your mic.
No, I'm a website building.
Here we go.
I
Yes,
don't know why I'm still hearing. Do you hear anything?
I just hear you.
Okay, that's good. What I'm hearing is not good for my ears. Mm, mm-mm.
Oh,
Okay, that was good.
thank you.
That
Yeah.
was really good. Thank you for allowing me to share that. It's so weird. Just give me 1 second, because I still hear this mess in my ear. It was the commercial, the YouTube commercial.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
So I'm back.
Yes.
Wow. All right. Yeah. I mean, and you make everybody look very much comfortable. Were anybody at like scared or nervous or, at the beginning of the classes? And how many weeks do somebody need to attend your classes?
No one seems scared or nervous, but everyone seems empowered. And my thing was, during Carly Brusher and during, teaching these classes, there's one thing that was really incredible from back all the way back after Carly Brusher and after me volunteering at so many places. I'm only one person
Mm-hmm.
and I want to teach the self-defense. And I kept thinking, how can I get it out here? How can I get it global? How can I get people everywhere to learn about
Mm-hmm.
self-defense?
Mm-hmm.
And especially the children. Then
Mm-hmm.
that's when I came up with the comic book,
So
Kilinda,
yes. Yes,
Kilinda
yes.
Superhero, because I
Mm-hmm.
felt like if I can teach self-defense and also have a superhero who's a superhero, I can
Mm-hmm.
have an exciting adventure, but also in each book teach self-defense.
Ooh, yes.
So
Okay.
yeah, and it's crazy because literally, again, me with my mind flood and my goals, I created Kilinda, and in 2007 published a small book and took it to different places, but they weren't ready for this African superhero because she's here to save her noble African bloodline. Okay. And I was like, I went to different places and I was at some places they were like half the people like her, half different. But again, this was pre-Wakanda. This is pre the Woman King. You know what I mean? This is pre-Obama. This was, you know what I mean? And so they weren't ready, you know. And I also felt like, I'm never gonna let it go. And that was in 2007. And as time went by, besides that, there were other things that I started thinking about, like, health issues, public health issues. And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, there's more that needs to be added to Kilinda. And I
Mm-hmm.
went on and I got my master's in health communication from the
Mm-hmm.
School of Public Health. So then I finally released Kilinda last year. So now I have Kilinda Superhero, and that's what I just
Mm-hmm.
went while you were playing the video and realized, oh, let me go grab it because
Mm-hmm.
here it is in hardcover now, Barnes
Oh,
and Noble.
nice. Okay.
Yay!
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Okay.
So Kilinda Superhero deals with this young lady who is trying to save her noble bloodline, born to in
Mm-hmm.
the year 2025, save her noble bloodline from this major threat that is trying to annihilate her and her people.
Mm-hmm.
And in it, as well, I teach self-defense in each one. The second book is about to come out
Okay.
shortly. But she's also, I have to have the entertainment side. So she's on
Mm-hmm.
this mission trying to, and she's running out of time because someone stole the magical diamond, her Makago, to give her all her powers. So it's an exciting read. Okay. And it's
Mm-hmm.
fun. And, people who have read it already, they're excited. They're waiting for the second one, but they also deals with public health issues. And this first one deals with trafficking. And that's why
Mm-hmm.
I put that, I mentioned that statistic to you because it's in here. Because on the back, I put a lot of the stats of human trafficking. Because in this
Okay.
issue, a young girl, an online predator,
Mm-hmm.
kidnaps her.
Mm.
So, yeah. So that, and Kilinda, and it's Kilinda's best friend's little sister.
It's always usually it is the best friend or somebody that's close to you, like, girl, come over here. You need some money? Come on. Whatever the way how they groom somebody, how they say
Mhm.
it is usually somebody that's super close to you, right?
Yeah, but this particular one, she's dealing with the online predator in the chat room,
Mm, mm-hmm,
because that's huge as well. And it's still happening. People are going to meet people they met online. They're strangers. And
mm-hmm,
there's certain things you need to know. You don't, first of all, if you are going to get involved in something like that, you don't let them meet you and you meet them in a car. First of all, you don't get involved with something like that. But people do meet people online. But you let someone know, you let them know where you're going. You go on your own. You have your friend pick you up. If
hmm.
you have a drink or something and you leave it unattended, it's no longer your drink. Know that. It's now
That's a
public
fact.
property. You know,
Mm,
watch what you eat, watch what you drink, watch where you go. Stay safe, be smart, you know.
yeah. I
And
mean,
Kilinda,
now they have trackers. So my siblings and myself and my daughter, we all are underneath a tracker. And it's so funny. I told my sister that I would be going away in the next couple of weeks. And she was like, I'm happy you telling me. Because if I would have saw that you are in
uh,
Vegas somewhere, I would have been like, what is she doing?
right, and
One of those
how,
things.
right,
So yeah, sometimes these trackers can help because when my daughter says she going out, I'm looking. And
yeah,
I want to see how long she been there, and did she move? Did she go to the store?
yeah,
And she's like, "Mom, if I call you, you don't answer. I'm about ready to get in my car and go where that GPS is late.
I heard that, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
No,
It's
it's
to this
true.
point. Mm-hmm.
It's a blessing, and you want to hope, and yeah, just the trackers, all these things that they do now are amazing.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't sort of, but the best thing is avoidance.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just like you said, that intuition, common
Mm-hmm.
sense, the meeting with strangers, you know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And these are all topics. First of all, I'm touching topics in Kilinda that affect marginalized communities because we are the most underserved, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just that, but I am going to also touch bullying. Like this one is human trafficking. The one coming out next issue is going to deal with mental health,
Nice.
and mental, yes, and that's out in a few weeks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to touch sickle cell.
Good. Good.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
All sorts of things that affect us to help us learn more about prevention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love
Even,
it.
yeah, even
Mm-hmm.
simple stuff that are simple carcinogens that people don't think about. French fries, hot dogs, you know what I mean? Barbecuing food. All that
Mm-hmm.
stuff is like smoking cigarettes because the temperature levels are so high, it puts carcinogens around it. So just
Mm-hmm.
again, back to awareness.
Absolutely. Yeah, because we gotta stop saying we don't know. Like my husband always say, we got the phone in our hand. Our phone is always giving information. As long as you're looking for it, you want it, type it in, you got the answer.
This is true. Or the answers that they want us to have. Let's put it that way.
But yeah, yeah. I mean, you gotta do a little bit more research
Yeah, because
now,
some stuff is
Yeah,
misinformation,
yeah.
and again, we out here, a lot of us trust it more because we as doctors than again when you're people like us who have a lot of distrust, you know,
Mm-hmm.
or for a
Mm-hmm.
system that's created to destroy us. So,
Mm.
you know,
I can't wait to like super like meet you and actually
that's it.
purchase a book.
Yes.
I would love to get a crew of ladies, at least five of us, and you come and teach us martial art. Um, the book is very important because we have some youth in our family that will love to read it, especially
And
we
adults. I'm
tapped
going to tell
in.
you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right now,
because
most of the people that have bought the book so far are women, and they love it.
okay.
Women like over the age of 30.
Oh
and
wow.
and they love it, but those that are young love it too. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
I have they love the even the merch is something about empowering. The t-shirts. I have
Mm-hmm.
Kilinda sneakers, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, Kilinda Superhero Store.com. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where you can buy the book with the soft cover, the hard cover, you
Okay.
know, shirts, jigsaw puzzles, playing cards,
Nice. I'm
fanny
gonna have to
pack,
get that again. Okay.
face mask, just Kilinda empowerment.
Okay.
Kilinda's a movement. It's not just a book, it's a movement. It's a movement to empower us. You know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I would love for you to come out to one of my next events. Hopefully, October is the domestic violence month. I
Mm-hmm.
would love for you to come out and talk about Keelinda and bring
Oh,
some merch. But I do want to ask you one last question.
yes.
Do you have any successful story or anything powerful that moment that stuck with you?
About
Uh,
self-defense?
yeah, about what you do.
Oh, you know, I have a lot of them, but I will say one thing about something that did occur in a class that really let me know that what I say is real. And I was teaching self-defense to, like first graders, you know, and this little kid, all his might chopped my neck. And for a
What?
week and a half, my neck was so swollen. And to this day, my neck sticks out on this side. From
Oh
that
my
little
goodness.
to this day, I have on this side of my neck from
Mm-hmm.
a little boy and I'm not tall. And this little boy was like from my waist, and he was the shortest one in the entire class. And after that, I said to myself, that's right. Everyone is able. You are more powerful than an eye, a nose, an ear, a neck,
Mm,
a knee, or whatever. It's the
mm,
knowledge, knowing what to do.
mm,
And I to this day, I know that a child can do self-defense
mm-hmm.
and it can work. You can inflict pain, but it's special to know where to inflict it. Because
Right.
you spend all your time punching somebody's stomach, that might not do nothing. They might work out and have like six-pack abs. You have to know where to hit them, like the solar plexus, which is right above the abs is.
Abs. Mm-hmm.
It will knock the wind out of an individual. So the
Mm-hmm.
point is again having the knowledge. Knowledge is power.
Power. Mm-hmm.
Knowing where and recognizing and knowing that you are able to defend yourself.
Mm. I hope everybody heard that. You can at any age, any height, you can defend yourself.
Man,
Um,
that
you
little
know,
boy don't
some
even know what he did,
what
but I
right
know.
years later, right?
Yes,
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because a lot of other race of people will teach their children young how to shoot a rifle,
that's right.
So
Guns, go hunting. Yeah,
we need to, I get on my daughter when she want to allow my grandson to be on the game all the time or the computer all the time, but I need him to get into some type of sports or something that's going to discipline him. That was that a cup?
oh, this is my Keelinda. This is what I drink out of
I
every
love
day.
it.
This is my Keelinda mug. That's
I
right.
absolutely love it. Yes. I
Mhm.
was like, wait, what's that the cup? Yes, I love it, love it, love it, love it. Oh my goodness, you just inspired me even more so
Again,
because
Kilinda Superhero Store.
that is so
Indeed.
funny.
I'm even in a Kilinda top.
Yes. So I had We Are Phenomenal Woman had actually the same logo but in purple. I had on the cup as well. So it's like, oh, what's that cup? My eye just caught it real quick. So
That's awesome.
I want people to understand that even though we're smiling, we laughing. That's a part of human, that's a part of nature to smile, to laugh.
Mhm.
But the next part is to defend yourself at any means necessary and defend yourself the right way. There are so many people that is out there snatching up our beautiful Black girls, as
Mhm.
you heard, as we have heard.
Mhm.
And I post on Facebook, I post a young lady who was standing by the bus stop, and the man was just looking around, and it looked like he had something in his hand. So I guess if he would have grabbed her, he would have grabbed her by her mouth or put something over her mouth. I sent that to my daughter, and I said, I want you to look at that carefully. So when she looked at it, she's like, Ma, he had something in his hand. I said, yeah, because he was going to cover up her mouth. So I
Mm.
was just explaining to her, when you out there, you have to
Yeah.
be careful and be aware of your surroundings at all times.
That's right. That's funny you should
So,
say that. In Kilinda book 2, there's a scenario with kids at a bus stop
mm,
being preyed on. Yeah. I teach that in my classes. I always with the kids I do scenarios as well. It's
as you
always
should.
and I put it in the book. Like I said, it's the books teaches the self-defense, but with also entertainment, intrigue, excitement and all that good stuff. But that's right. Be aware, awareness. You cannot be out here in this day and age and not observe who's around you.
That's right.
And don't
Absolutely.
feel afraid to say something very loudly.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
how I said in that video, even if you look nuts, it doesn't matter. So you look
Mm-hmm.
nuts and you go home. You get to go
Right.
home.
You get to go home. Yep.
So look
Yep.
nuts. Say something loudly. Why do you keep looking at me? I don't know you. Why are you
Mm-hmm.
surrounding me? Why do you
Mm-hmm.
keep coming over here? Help.
Mm-hmm. It's funny.
Stranger danger.
Exactly. Because I was on the phone once again with my daughter. She was walking down the street, and she's like, "Why is this man so close to me?" And I was like, "What? So I'm like, "Put me on FaceTime." I can't
Right.
do
And
much,
put on
but
that
I'm just like,
camera. Everybody
"Yeah, I
knows
want to
what that
see."
means.
So when she said it, another man said, "Yeah, I was wondering why he was all up on you."
Ooh. So if somebody was watching him, watching her. And again, people are watching. Say something.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
do I know you?
Mm, 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 mm,
Yeah,
mm.
loudly.
Yeah, these people is special cases, super special.
It's true. And right now, for whatever reason,
Yeah.
people are unhinged.
Quick. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
while so even in knowing like with me, you got to deter anything from happening. Don't feel like so what the no. Don't
No. Yeah.
anything that might create violence.
Right.
So in that moment,
Absolutely.
this is all about prevention and
Mm-hmm.
being smart. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? And people out here just it's almost like it's like there's nothing to fear anymore. They don't fear jail. They don't fear God. They don't fear they brought up on different principles, so they don't know. We prayed before we went to sleep, before we ate, before whatever. We had a belief system.
Right.
These people today, a lot of them, not all, but they're just a lot of people. I hate to say it, but it's just real. That internet access, like you mentioned earlier, gives people a lot of
Mm-hmm.
access to everything.
Everything.
And it
Yeah.
just helps them grow with their craziness if they are dealing in craziness or confusion,
Mm-hmm.
especially when they see there are a lot of other people that are just like them, that like all the same things they do, that can swap this pornography with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they're giving it labels like it's an illness more than just the criminal sides of it.
Yeah.
People just feel like they can get away with a lot, so they do it because it's just jail. Yeah,
Ain't that some just jail? Mm.
yeah.
With that being said, Sensei, I would love to see you one day,
Yes,
and I
yes,
would
yes.
love for you to train
Myself as
us.
well.
I
Yeah.
will appreciate you.
I will
Uh,
definitely commit to something in October with you, some
okay.
form of that. And if anything else comes up before that, you let me know. As long as I know ahead of time, we'll make it happen.
Yes, ma'am, for sure.
All
Thank
right.
you so much for allowing me to interview you, and thank you for this great opportunity. I'll talk to you
Thank you.
soon.
Yes, and you have to do something for me. I end every class like this. Put your fists up. I'm going to take a photo. And notice my cover, Kilinda. But anyway,
Mhm.
I really wasn't trying to do that.
Wait, let me see.
But
Let me
I'm just
make
saying,
sure.
and
My nails.
we always say, G-Force,
G-force.
G-Force. course. All right. There it is.
There you go.
All right.
All
Thank
right.
you
Have a good
so
one.
much. Thank you.
You're
Yes.
welcome. Bye
Stay safe.
bye.